The studio lights were uncomfortably bright, but Representative Jasmine Crockett sat steady in her seat, her chin tilted upward in defiance. Opposite her sat Karoline Leavitt, a young firebrand, conservative, and former Trump White House staffer, now a media darling for her brash commentary and unapologetic nationalism. The stage was set for fireworks. The show was billed as a crossfire special on race and representation in America, hosted live on a major network. Moderated by a trembling anchor already losing control, the conversation began with tense civility. But when Jasmine cited the long historical arc of voter suppression and the silencing of black women in political life, Karoline's smile twisted into something bitter. "You know what I think," Karoline said, her voice coated in faux polite venom. "If you hate this country so much, maybe you should just go back to Africa." Gasps burst across the audience like a lit match on gasoline. The moderator froze, eyes wide, unsure whether to interrupt or let it ride. The room seemed to lean toward Jasmine all at once. She blinked slowly, steadying herself as the silence calcified. Karoline smirked with the smug self-satisfaction of someone used to getting away with everything. "This country gave you everything and you still play the victim. It's embarrassing." Jasmine didn't move. Not yet. The next moment felt like glass shattering in slow motion. "Say it again," Jasmine said, her voice low, almost a whisper. "I want to be sure I heard you right. Say it again, Karoline." Karoline, emboldened, leaned forward, trying to keep the upper hand. "You heard me just fine. If you think America is systemically racist, maybe you'd be happier somewhere else, like where your ancestors came from." The moderator stammered, Let's redirect." But it was too late. Jasmine leaned in, her eyes unblinking. "You want me to go back to Africa?" she asked, now loud enough for the whole studio to hear. "I was born in Texas. My grandmother was born in Texas. My great-grandmother was born in Texas and worked in a cotton field while white men called her girl and spat at her feet. I'm about as American as pain, Karoline." The audience stirred, hushed, electrified. Jasmine didn't blink. "But let's talk about you. You walk in here with your Fox News smile and your sorority girl supremacy, thinking you're brave, because you can sneer at a black woman on live television and not lose a damn thing. But you miscalculated." Karoline tried to wave it off. "Oh, here we go. You people always—" But Jasmine cut her off. "You people?" Her voice sharpened like a blade. "You mean the people who built this country for free? The people who survived slavery, Jim Crow, redlining, voter suppression, and now sit in Congress while you try to tell them to leave?" She didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. Every word echoed like a gavel. "You want to talk about America? I am America." Karoline scoffed and crossed her arms, but her posture had changed, tighter, defensive. She didn't expect resistance to feel this cold, this personal. Jasmine stood slowly, her eyes never leaving Karoline's. "Do you know what it's like to walk into rooms every day where people assume you're angry before you've even spoken? Where your intelligence is questioned, your credentials doubted, and your patriotism suspect?" She glanced out at the cameras, the audience, the millions, watching. "I have sat through committee hearings where men with less education and less experience talk over me like I'm a child. I've buried constituents who died in underfunded hospitals because of decisions people like you made, and I still show up every damn day because I believe in a country that doesn't believe in me back." The audience was dead silent, the air thick. "You think I'm the problem because I tell the truth out loud, but the truth is what terrifies you." Jasmine turned to the moderator. "I came here to talk policy, not parry racism dressed in pearls and press releases." Karoline looked down for the first time. "You don't get to weaponize ignorance and call it patriotism. Not today." A few audience members stood. Applause erupted, hesitant at first, then thunderous. The moderator finally found his voice. We need to take a break," he said. The cameras panned to Karoline, who sat in stunned silence. But Jasmine hadn't finished. As the applause died, Jasmine stepped toward Karoline's side of the stage, not aggressively, but with the grace of someone who had carried much heavier burdens than a televised insult. "I could walk away right now," she said softly, her voice suddenly intimate. "But I want you to hear something. I forgive you." Karoline looked up sharply, her eyes narrowing with disbelief. "Not because you deserve it," Jasmine continued, "but because I refuse to carry your poison in my bloodstream." The audience inhaled, collectively holding breath. "You think telling me to go back to Africa is power. It's not. It's fear. You're afraid that women like me, black, brilliant, unbought, are no longer asking for permission to belong. We know we do, and no amount of dog whistles or cheap insults is going to stop us." Jasmine turned and walked off stage, the cameras following, the spotlight still clinging to her like gravity. Karoline sat frozen, suddenly small in her silence, her moment of triumph decaying into something shameful. The moderator turned to wrap up, but before he could speak, a woman in the front row shouted, "That's what courage looks like!" The audience roared. The clip would go viral within hours. But the twist that would shock the nation came 2 days later, when Karoline, facing pressure from even her own party, issued a tearful, carefully worded apology. She paused halfway through the statement and whispered into the mic, "I saw something in her I've never seen before. It scared me, but maybe it shouldn't have." The moment stunned the press. For once, America listened, not just to Jasmine's words, but to the echo of their truth. And this time, it didn't look away. The fallout from the broadcast was immediate, seismic, and unlike anything the network had anticipated. Hashtags exploded across social media. "I am America," "Jasmine Crockett Truth," "Go Back to Texas," a biting reclamation of Karoline's insult. Clips of Jasmine's response were replayed in slow motion, subtitled, set to gospel choirs and hip-hop beats, dissected by pundits, embraced by activists, even studied in classrooms. What had begun as an attempt to corner a black congresswoman on national television had detonated into something far larger, a reckoning. Karoline's apology, aired stiffly from behind a podium, did little to stem the tide. Conservative outlets rallied behind her, calling Jasmine divisive, emotional, a symbol of what's wrong with identity politics. But even some on the right faltered when pressed. The footage spoke for itself. Meanwhile, Jasmine was invited to every major Sunday show, though she declined most. "I said what needed saying," she told her team. "I'm not turning my truth into a tour." But then came the twist no one expected. Jasmine received a letter, handwritten, delivered to her congressional office. It was from Karoline. Cursive that was elegant but nervous, the letter read, "You didn't just embarrass me, you exposed me. And the truth is, I don't know who I am outside of the fight. I was trained to weaponize my ignorance. I don't say this for sympathy, I say it because for the first time, I felt something break. Something I didn't know. Needed breaking. If you're willing, I'd like to talk. Not on camera, not for headlines, just human." Jasmine read the letter 3 times. Then she placed it on her desk, untouched, for days. Her staff debated. Some urged her to go public, others to burn it. Jasmine said nothing, but something in her shifted. She began returning to the roots of her work with fresh fury, hosting town halls in forgotten corners of Texas, pushing harder on police accountability bills, rewriting language in education proposals to reflect real lived poverty. She moved like a woman electrified, not just by rage, but by clarity. At one such town hall, an elderly black woman pulled her aside and whispered, "They tried to shame you for standing tall, baby, but God made you loud for a reason." Jasmine smiled but didn't respond. That night, she finally wrote back. Her letter was short. We can talk, but only if you're ready to sit in silence before you speak. You don't heal what you don't hear. They met a week later in a private room in D.C. No press, no cameras, no staff. For nearly 10 minutes, neither spoke. Karoline stared at her lap. Jasmine watched her with the same steady silence that had stunned the country. Then slowly, the conversation began. It wasn't easy. Karoline fumbled, defensive, then remorseful. Jasmine was firm, often biting, but never cruel. You're not the first white woman to insult me on national television, she said flatly. But you might be the first who cared what it meant afterward. Karoline's eyes shimmered, but she held Jasmine's gaze. I thought being tough meant never backing down. But you showed me that courage isn't about who shouts louder. It's about who speaks truth when it costs them. Jasmine nodded once. And sometimes the cost is everything. The two parted with no handshake, no embrace, just a quiet understanding, and that somehow was enough. Months later, a bill passed the House, one addressing racial literacy in federal institutions, mandating historical training for elected officials and their staff. It bore Jasmine's name. But what startled everyone was the second name attached, Karoline Leavitt. The right erupted in fury. The left blinked in disbelief. But Jasmine only said, when your enemy listens and learns, she stops being your enemy. She starts being human. That night, as pundits raged and op-eds churned, Jasmine returned to her apartment alone.